Welcome back. This week's episode of Story Time. We picked the top 3 stories for this week that we think you all could possibly learn from, hopefully. Or just hear, maybe have the same concerns, problems.
Yeah. And because they sent it in a way that was easy to read.
That too.
Yeah.
So make it easy and
it'll
we'll
probably
read
get...
yeah, we'll read your story. So with that, Mystal picked all these stories this week. Tony and I have no idea what's about to be read. So
I haven't heard these, so it's exciting.
Raw reactions.
All right. Number 1, titled, "Was I Being Paranoid or Smart?" This is from Tyler out of Phoenix, Arizona. I was walking to my car in a dimly lit parking garage after a concert. I noticed a guy standing near the elevator, just watching people. Something felt off. I turned around and waited inside the venue for a bit longer before leaving. Part of me felt dramatic, like maybe I overreacted, but another part of me was proud I listened to my gut. How do you know when it's intuition and when it's just anxiety?
That's a good question. Okay, so when people say something feels off, that's a good indicator. In police work, that's called a hunch, right? If you really want to dig down into it and see if it's just anxiety or real, you have to be able to articulate it, right? So articulation is actually just describing and explaining why something makes you feel that way. So if you look at them and say, something's off, if you dig in a little deeper, you'll be able to hopefully explain to yourself why you feel that way.
I'm going to get in on that one, and I'll say anxiety is chronic. I am not a therapist or anything like that. I think most people to some degree have experienced anxiety in their life, right? Anxiety tends to be more of a chronic thing. So I don't want to assume anything about this listener, but maybe it's something he struggled with, so that's why he's kind of, doesn't know if it's anxiety or if it's intuition, But I'd also say that look at how Tony addressed it. You said you went over all the things you just said. I'm not going to repeat them. But also think, do you feel this way about every guy who stands next to an elevator? Would you think that if anyone was standing there, like every day of your life that you are going to an elevator? If the answer is no to that, then it's most likely your intuition. You're picking up on something that is off, right? Yeah. But anxiety is more of a chronic.
Yeah, I deal with anxiety a lot, but grounding really helps. And that helps with defining your reasons, articulating your reasons, why that makes you feel that way. Like, is it just the way that the person looks? Is it the way the person is standing there? Is it do they belong in that area? It is better safe than sorry. Your instinct is there for a reason. We talked about that in another episode, or maybe we didn't. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we have. We talk so much I can't remember.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't think you're being anxious about anything. Just a little bit of the story, hearing from it, is a poor lit garage. You're leaving a concert, I think it was. I don't know time of day, but that's your gut telling you something's not right. So I think you did perfectly fine.
Yeah, and even if it was anxiety, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You're safe. You're here. You're able to share your story. You learned from it. So good job.
Yeah. I don't have anything else you could change or anything you could do better. You guys?
No. Just understand why you're feeling that way.
The only thing I could say would be being mindful of how long you wait inside the venue, because then you're opening yourself up to a whole nother plethora of things that could be, like, say the guy still ends up being there, but now there's no other people around. You know what I mean? Or, just being mindful, keeping your head up on a swivel, whatever. But, great job.
Situational awareness. Good for you.
All right. Second story. I always overshare and regret it. Hey, me too. All right. She wishes to remain anonymous. She's okay with me stating that she is a she. So she's a she out of Indianapolis. Okay. In new jobs or relationships, I always feel the urge to be super open. I tell people too much too fast, trauma struggles, everything. Then later, I feel exposed or judged. I want to be real, but I also want to protect myself better. What's a good rule of thumb for when to share things and when to hold back?
I would say just a rule of thumb. You don't know who these strangers are. Why are you giving out personal information? I mean, believe it or not, if somebody wants to target you, all they have to do, if you overshare, like you said you do, they just have to listen to what you're saying for maybe 10, 15 minutes. And they might be able to pick up on a lot of stuff that shouldn't be shared to strangers.
Well, your weaknesses, like when you're getting into like trauma-based stuff too with people, you know, new coworkers or in, you know, new relationships that you don't really know if it's worth investing in yet. You're giving them access to parts of your mind and parts of your heart that should be guarded until it's someone who's trustworthy. A lot of times, especially, you know, doing our job, people will open up on a traffic stop or after they've been arrested, and they'll spill all the things, right? And it's okay because, you know, we aren't going to go, you know, it doesn't matter, but always in the back of my mind, it tells me, okay, this is how you ended up here, right? So think about that in reverse. Someone who may want to do you harm, you've now handed them the keys to your mental energy, the ins and outs of how you cope and deal with things, and not everyone is good, right? Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I overshare intentionally a lot, you know, especially like mental health stuff. You know, my intent behind that is, you know, don't be a and go to therapy. It's not gonna hurt. It's not gonna hurt anybody. I'm trying to break that stigma. But when you are giving information out, you need to ask yourself, you know, is this going to help somebody, or is this going to hurt me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it hurts. It does not hurt me to let everybody know that I go to therapy.
So that's good information to give out, though. Like, your intent is to seek awareness for people to go
Right.
out
Yeah.
and talk about their mental health. But it's not okay for me to say, hey, I'm going to be going these dates on vacation. I don't have any dogs. I don't have anything. My house is empty. I have somebody house sitting. Maybe they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's information you don't give out to a random stranger.
Yeah,
You don't need to
that's a great
overshare
point.
about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's just saying, hey, come rob me because I'm out of town.
Yeah, that's telling that person if they want to do you harm.
Yeah. And I'm going to switch gears a little bit here too, because this applies in so many ways. For me, you know, foundation of my leadership within my team, it's based on trust and vulnerability. Like, I cannot effectively lead unless I create an environment where my guys trust me to let me know what they need and know that I will do everything I can to get it for them, and that comes with vulnerability. If they can't tell me what they're struggling with, then I cannot help them, right? But also in building trust, like everyone knows, you have to be able to be open with them too. So for me, for a long time, I struggled with that, right? Like, I am expecting my guys to be completely open and honest with me, and they should expect the same in return. That is how you build trust, right? I'll say I even used a tactic, and Tony, I think, has since implemented it some. If I knew one of my guys is struggling with something, I would intentionally come up with a scenario that I could say, man, you know, whenever I was doing something like that, I messed it up because I did it this way. You know, my intent behind it was, I'm not perfect. I've messed up stuff. And trust me, I've messed up plenty. It might not have been in that exact way, but I've messed up plenty. But it's to get someone to be comfortable, like, okay, even my supervisor's messed up. Clearly she can talk about it. Clearly I can too, right? But I will say, it had been a task for me to try to determine, what do I share, what do I not share, And it's simple. You share things that are relevant to what you're doing, right? You share things that have some kind of value in that conversation. And it also is based off the people you're having it with, right? I'll tell guys all the time, your coworker, just because they're a coworker, doesn't mean that they are your friend, right? I think a lot of times we blur the lines because we do spend a lot of time with our coworkers. I think we blur lines there with, okay, we see them every day, we talk to them, they're nice enough, they're my friend, I can tell them anything. That is just not true, right? And I know a lot of hurt has come from situations where people have felt betrayed because they thought they were friends when really they were just sharing information at work that shouldn't have been there, right? And so that is how I have come to build boundaries, right? You have people who are your friends that you go to, again, like I've hit on a lot of different things. You have mentors, you have people in your life that have that are privileged enough to be that close to you. And then at work, you have people you work with that you respect and you be professional with, and you share enough to build trust to get the job done.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially realizing that coworkers are coworkers, and eventually, I know in a lot of law enforcement it becomes competitive.
Yeah.
So like, I might help you out because I want you to be better. You need to be better. We all need to be better just so that we're safer in our work. But 6 months from now, we could be fighting for the same promotion spot. So don't overshare. It's just what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's a fine line to balance.
It is, and I'll say that was a great question to send in, because I think a lot of people probably struggle with it, and maybe not to the same extremes.
Right.
But I will say, for me, how I got some clarity with that was you protect your heart, and you only give that to people that are within your inner circle, right? If you have something relevant to share, you share that. If you've gone through something that is relevant to what your coworker's going through in a professional sense, share that, right? But until they leave the just dating or my coworker at work and they enter in the inner circle, you save that stuff. That's sacred to me. Like, you guys, like, you get part of my heart that other people don't get, right? And it's because you are my people, and that should be saved for people that truly love you, right?
Yeah. Some things are just saved for me.
Yeah, save stuff for just yourself.
I got some really cool stories that I may write down someday.
Yeah.
But they're just for me right now.
Or think of it this way. Obviously, you're not married because you said relationships. Maybe you're dating. I don't know. Maybe there's stuff you want to say for just your partner.
Yeah.
Right.
Mystery is kind of sexy.
Right. Yeah. Save it just for your partner. You don't have to overshare. And also therapy. If you mentioned trauma struggles, I think I'm not a therapist, but from reading your story, I think just defining your inner circle and going to therapy would help a lot with what you were asking. It's all boundaries. But the Boundaries book is a great book. You should get it. You should read it. Changes your life.
Yeah. Find a therapist.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
What's next?
All right. 3. I missed the red flags again. James, 40, San Antonio. I just got out of another relationship where, looking back, the red flags were all there. Controlling behavior, lying, constant guilt trips. But in the moment, I brushed it off. I didn't want to be bitter or paranoid moving forward, but I also don't want to keep making the same mistakes. How do I build awareness before it's too late?
Pay attention.
Yeah.
Situational awareness. it's not every instant of every second. It's big picture, right? So
Yeah, I mean, you said you noticed red flags. Well, you've noticed the red flags before and already identified them. So why are we continuing to allow it to move on into your next relationship? I mean, if you start to see those red flags, I mean, that's probably the point of when you need to do something.
It's simple. Remember the lesson, forget the mistake. You know, I think a lot of the confusion, I don't know. I haven't dated in I don't know how long. And I really pray I never, ever, just don't ever leave me. I pray I never have to figure out, right? But from what I see from, I have brother and some, my friends, define what it is that you are looking for. Define what that is, and then only pursue those things. I think because of the way society has, changed and the way we use, social media and dating apps and all of that, there are so many options that, it's easy to I don't want to say go astray because I sound like my dad again, but you know what I mean? It's easy to kind of get lost in the noise. Maybe the answer is just writing down what is it that you want? What is it that you want in a relationship? And if that person doesn't meet those things, like the basic things, then don't waste your time or hers, right? But if you get in it thinking it is, something, again, I'm not a therapist or a relationship advisor or anything, just so you guys know. But if you get in it and you start seeing red flags, then call them out. Call them out early. It kind of relates to work again. When I tell my guys, if you are out with someone and you instruct them to do something and they just start deviating even a little, call them out. Put them back in the position you told them to get in, because a lot of times people are looking to see how far they can push it, right? I'm not saying that's what's happening in relationships. I don't know. And thank God I don't know. But probably therapy. Probably therapy.
Man, that's a weird answer for everything.
Right.
But I think, when you see red flags, you do need to draw a hard line. And we talked about it earlier, speeding up your OODA loop, answering those questions before they get there, dating, man, I've been off the market for a long time.
Yeah.
But if you have a red flag, say they're a smoker. I don't know. What's a red flag?
I don't know. I would just say he hit controlling behavior, lying, and constant guilt trips. If someone's lying to you, that's it.
Yeah.
You can't build a life with someone that you can't trust. The foundation of every relationship is trust. So if you can't trust someone, then that is a hard first lie. See ya, right?
Cut them loose, yeah.
Because you got to know, if it started at the beginning, it's most likely not going to change, right? Anyway, all that to say.
Yeah, especially in dating,
Yeah.
I think the beginning would be that's where everyone's trying to do their most impressing thing or whatever. If they're already falling short, just cut them loose.
Yeah, they're putting their best foot forward. If their best foot ain't cutting it, move on.
Yeah.
Right.
If you've been stabbed in the back before, and then you meet a guy who carries up a knife, maybe.
Yeah. As the song says.
Theoretically, I guess.
On to the next one.
Right.
Yes.
So to wrap it up, thanks guys for sending your stuff in. If we can't read it or don't understand it, we can't share your story. So be pretty clear about what you want asked or answered so we can answer it. Like always, keep sending them in. Comment. If you don't want to comment, send it to our email. We'll keep it private. That's all we got for you guys. So until next time.
Details are good in the stories. It helps us see your process. So.
Yeah, we're trying to get the big picture of everything. Yeah. If you leave stuff out, you leave us guessing. So, like always, like, share, comment, everything else.
Thanks, guys.